Welcome back to math. Section 4 is all about percents. How to convert between fractions and decimals, decimals to percents, fractions to percents, and then we'll talk about the percent of and a percent change. Fractions, decimals, and percents are all ways to divide things up. Fractions can have any number of parts, like half of a pie or a 1/16 of an inch. With decimals, everything is based on multiples of 10. Percents measure things only in parts of 100. Literally, percent means per hundred. Think of how many cents are in a dollar, 100 cents in a dollar, and 100 years in a century. So, written as a fraction, 1% is literally 1 per hundred, that's 1/100th, and written as a decimal, 1% is 1/100th, or 0.01 we sometimes say. The difference between fractions, decimals, and percents is just how the value is formatted. Any fraction can be written as a decimal, any decimal written as a percent. Percents are useful in real-life situations because it gives us a familiar, standard way to compare quantities. To convert between fractions and decimals, remember that a fraction is really a way to show division, and that 1/4 is really 1 divided by 4. When we do that division, we find that that is 0.25 or 25 hundredths. And that method, dividing the numerator by the denominator, works to convert any fraction to a decimal. Some results may have a lot of decimal places, so we may round to a specific decimal place. A fraction which already has a numerator that's 10 or any power of 10 can be converted to a decimal format without really doing any division. For example, 3/10 is literally 3/10. And something like 4 and 537 thousandths is 4 and 537 thousandths. Something like 2/5 can be converted to having 10 as a denominator. So if we multiply by 1 in the form of 2 over 2, we get 4/10, and that is 4/10. Going back the other way, 13 hundredths, remember that's literally 13 hundredths, and there it is as a fraction. Converting between decimals and percents. So the hundredths value of a decimal is really the percent. So, for example, 13 hundredths, right, is 13 per hundred, that's 13%. So the general rule to convert a decimal to a percent is to move the decimal point 2 places to the right, which we did, and add the percent sign. That works with longer decimals too. Still move the decimal 2 places to the right, 1, 2, right, and add the percent sign. Going back the other way, converting a percent to a decimal is doing the opposite. Drop the percent sign off and move the decimal 2 places to the left. So, for example, 87.5%. We take the percent sign away and we move the decimal 2 places to the left. We have 0.875 or 875 thousandths. Converting between fractions and percents. Remember that a percent is a number per hundred, so the fraction's denominator is 100. So 49% is 49 per hundred, 49 hundredths. That works also if there's a decimal point in the percentage. So 92.3% is still 92.3 per hundred. We don't usually want to mix decimals and fractions, so if we multiply that times 10 over 10, that's really just multiplying by 1, we would get 923 over 1,000. If we want to convert a fraction to a percent, it's easier to just convert that fraction to the decimal first and then follow the rules for converting the decimal to a percent. We often have common questions like, what is 10% of 32? And 54 is what percent of 300? You'll find more information on translating English to math in Section 10 on word problems. However, here's one important translation. Of means to multiply. So literally, 10% of 32 means to take 10% and multiply it by 32. We can do that in decimals. 10% as a decimal is 0.10 times 32, and that would give us 3.2. We could also do it with fractions. 10% is 10 hundredths times 32 equals 320 hundredths. That's a mixed number, and if you simplify it, it would give us 3 and 20 hundredths, or even 3 and 2 tenths. Same as this, 3 and 2 tenths. Well, how about 54 is what percent of 300? Well, literally, 54 equals what percent. We'll assign a variable. We'll talk more about this in another section, but what percent is y percent of multiply 300. And again, if you have some experience already in solving equations, you know that we need to divide both sides by 300 to get y percent all by itself on this side. So 54 divided by 300. And to make that a percent, I'd like to get this as a denominator of 100. To do that, I divided by 3. If I divide 54 by 3, I'd get 18. So that means that 18% is my answer. 54 is 18% of 300. Another common use for percents is to calculate the percent of change from one value to another. For example, if gas was $2 per gallon this month and it costs $2.50 next month, what is going to be the percent of change? And there's a formula for percent of change, which is simply change divided by original. So for the price increase to go from $2 to 50 cents, we find the change by taking the second value, subtract the original value, and that would be $2.50 minus $2, or 50 cents. And the original, that's what the price started off as, and in this case that's $2. If we do that division, we'll find that that is 25%. So that's a 25% increase from $2 to $2.50. Notice that we said the answer as an increase because the price went up. If it had been a decrease, the price would have obviously gone down, and it would have given us a negative number in the numerator. We'll talk about negative numbers in section 5. But the final answer would have been negative, and therefore we would know that it was a price decrease. Here's another example that's often misunderstood. We have a situation where last year 25% of students ate hot dogs, but this year 30% of students ate hot dogs. If you don't really understand the percent change formula, you would say, well, that's a 5% difference, right? 30 minus 25, it's already in percents, it must be a percent change. But that's not how it works. Percent change is the change over the original. So the new price is 0.30, that's converting percent to decimal, minus 25% over the original, that's what it was before, that's the 25%. When we do that, we get 0.05 over 0.25, and we find out that that is actually not 5%, 20%. 25% changing to 30% is really a 20% increase.